welcome to Cal's Cinema. This is Communion. What happens when you cast Christopher Walken in a film adaptation of a supposedly real-life encounter with aliens? And can that adaptation be anything but batshit crazy? This video will hopefully answer that question for you, and will also give Communion a score out of 10. Released in 1989, Communion is based on the experiences of real-life author Whitley Strieber. Strieber claims that the night after Christmas in 1985, he was abducted by beings that may or may not have been extraterrestrials. He wrote a book on this, also titled Communion, which was released in 1987 and became a bestseller. Of course, the book's success led to the obvious next step, and Communion the movie was put into production.
Don't wait up for me, baby.
To be fair to the real-life Whitley, whether you buy into his story or not, any opinions shared on this video will be purely to do with the movie, because from watching interviews with the man, something tells me he is worlds apart from the typically Walken-esque interpretation that the actor gives us on screen. No offense to Christopher.
I don't care.
As Communion has been out for coming up on the best part of 40 years now, we aren't going to bother with a spoiler warning, and for reasons we'll get to later, you'll see that that won't be a great loss. But if for some reason you feel like you really need to watch the entire 1 hour and 50 minutes of this film with fresh eyes, then go ahead and come back.
Get up! I'm cooking. I'm on a roll. What's the matter with you? Boo!
Strieber decided to produce the film independently and even opted for friend Philippe Mora to direct. Still, the story ended up altered, and Strieber said that some of the crew even openly mocked him on set. In the end, despite his attempt at controlling how faithful the movie would be to his own experiences, Strieber ended up slating the film on release as largely inaccurate, and it's not really hard to see why this might be.
There were wolves in the closet, wolves in the basement, wolves all over the place.
In this scene, this isn't Whitley's Halloween costume, but what he wears to write his novel. As far as the cast goes, this is entirely the Christopher Walken show, and you have to wonder if the film would be half as weird as it is without him in it. Co-stars Lindsay Krause as Whitley's wife Anne, and Joel Carson as their son Andrew are just kind of there, as Walken freaks out in basically every scene he is in, regardless of whether his character is supposed to be feeling under extraterrestrial influence or not.
Without a sound, the white camellia fell, to sound the darkness of the deep stone well.
Good night, room. Good night, moon. Good night, cow jumping over the moon. Please, children, scooch closer. Don't make me tell you again about the scooching.
Can't get out of this!
Between the scenes of marriage-ending bickering and alien shenanigans, Eric Clapton's smooth guitar score is completely at odds with what should be unnerving scenes. The music is better suited to beach scenes at Riggs's trailer in Lethal Weapon, not in the paranoia-filled breakdowns of Whitley's New York apartment or creepy remote cabin. At least the film looks pretty great. Being made in 1989, it is of course shot on film, and is suitably muted for a horror film, with the crucial contrast between light and dark in the abduction scenes looking particularly well done. As for the design of the aliens, that's multiple species of aliens, and some that may even be fake within the story. They range from looking like toys in the case of the now cliched appearance of what are commonly known as greys, to some actually decent animatronic features of these smaller creatures called Blue Doctors, despite the fact that they appear to be more black in colour. Another insectoid race known simply as bugs provides some mild creepiness to Whitley's otherwise tame visions.
You know, I can't believe this. It's an ambush.
If you manage to sit through Communion's near 2-hour runtime, a good chunk of which is made up of nonsensical arguments and decisions from the main characters, such as the choice to return to the cabin where they first made contact, you will discover that through visions and eventual hypnotic therapy, Whitley comes to accept the fact that he has been abducted by, experimented on, and probed to high heaven by aliens. This is somehow a hereditary thing passed from his own father to him and will eventually be passed to his son Andrew. Rather than panic and freak out at the idea of Andrew going through what he has, he's cool with it now. It's kind of fine.
Until the movie just sort of ends.
But not before we are treated to one of the weirdest scenes ever committed to film. That is of Whitley having a little dance number with his alien abusers in their smelly little dark back room of a spacecraft. In fact, Walken himself here doesn't even seem to know what's going on and is simply going with the flow. So, what's the verdict on Communion? Well, at close to 2 hours long, surprisingly not a lot happens in this abduction tale. In what should be an easy home run for a horror film, especially one based on supposedly real-life events, Walken does his best to keep the terror that Whitley feels ever present, but often this slips into the absurd, and the result is more funny haha than funny weird. With the choice of the bizarre 80s guitar score and lackluster scares, it's not a surprise to learn that the production of the film was said to be difficult. Poor alien designs and a focus on a strained marriage all bogged down Communion from the heightened horror that it could have been. The film can be watched as a comedy even just for Walken's performance alone, but as a horror film it just doesn't perform.
All these reasons given, Communion gets a score of 4.9 out of 10.
So, that's it. What I have been trying to say in a nutshell.
So, what did you think of Communion? Can you think of an even crazier role that Walken has had, or are you more of a fan of the Nick Cage school of unhinged acting? You can let me know in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe, and come back again to Cal's Cinema.
Get away!
Why me? What have I done?
This is no good. I can't do this.